right, good morning. It is such an honor and a privilege to be here with you today. I am super excited about the opportunity to talk to you, because this is a conversation, right? Is that cool? Yes. Cool. Just checking to make sure that you didn't fall asleep. Although they have the air conditioner set just below the temperature where the itis kicks in. So they gave you breakfast, and then they turned the temperature down just enough to keep you awake for this conversation. So I wanted to talk to you a bit today, and I had the opportunity to listen to some amazing presenters yesterday. How many of you really enjoyed the keynotes from yesterday? Were they not amazing? They were absolutely amazing. I sat, I took notes. I'm really not a note taker. I usually delegate that responsibility to Kelly Holloway, who is the best note taker. But yesterday, I actually took notes myself. And in taking notes, I'm also very observant. So I was sitting there and I watched while there was a lot of testosterone on this stage yesterday. Did you feel that too? My ladies in the room, did you feel that testosterone coming? And so I know one thing about Miss Renee. She's extremely strategic in her approach to putting together these conferences. And I would say that she did that on purpose. She gave you all of that testosterone today so that I could come up as the pitch hitter and sprinkle a little black girl magic on it, right? We're gonna sprinkle a little black girl magic on it this morning. All right. Yep. See, I take my cues from the queen herself. So today we're gonna be talking about culture and strategy and culture. Lots of buzzwords you've probably been hearing and some conversations you've been having in your organizations for the past maybe 2 or 3 years about culture. It's so important now, right? It always has been. We just didn't realize it. That's just the plug. So we talk about culture and strategy, and you've probably heard somewhere along this journey that culture eats strategy for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack time, all those meals in between, right? Have you heard that? Hands up. Are there any of you out there that believe that if we're talking about culture and strategy, that strategy is just more important than culture? Anybody out there believe that strategy is just more important? Kevin, where are you? Because I know your hand should be up. The strategy guy would have to think that strategy is more important. How many of you have strategic plans? Yeah? In your organization? Show of hands, you have a strategic plan. Raise them high, don't be ashamed. We all write down our goals, right? How many of you have culture plans? So I'm gonna ask this question again because it's not rhetorical. How many of you think strategy is more important than culture? Because that's where you're spending your time. You're developing these strategic plans, right? But if strategy is if culture is eating strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we're spending all of this time on strategy, we may be missing something. Just saying. So, strategy is important. Strategy is important. I will tell you that about 10, 11 months ago, State Employees Credit Union hired a new CEO. Now, how many of you have heard that the second largest credit union in the nation hired someone from outside, not only outside of the organization, because for 85 years leading up to that, there had never been an external hire for that position. And they not only hired someone from outside of the organization, but they hired someone who originally came from the wrong coast, and by way of somewhere up north, to come down to North Carolina and lead the second largest credit union? How many of you heard that somewhere? That they did something like that? Crazy, right? If you are from North Carolina, there are just a couple of things that are certain, right? Tar Heel fans are crazy. Duke fans are crazier. And nobody remembers who NC State's fans are, right? There are just some things, and I'm an NC State grad. There are just some things that are true to North Carolina. And the strategy for State Employees Credit Union for 85 years had been to grow talent from within. They'd done that, and they'd done it well. Now, all of a sudden, they decided to look outside of the organization. Just open it up, just peek and see if there's might be someone out there that they wanted to bring in. And they found this guy from the Maryland, D.C. area named Jim Hayes. And they brought Jim in to State Employees, a place that runs like a well-oiled machine, second largest credit union in the nation, with new ideas for how he's going to do things. So one of the first things Jim did when he got to State Employees was he sent an email to all staff. Now, I know a lot of you are going, Ann, if in 85 years, no one who sat in that seat ever sent an all-staff email, it might shock you as an employee to get one, right? Okay, so this is what happened. He sends an all-staff email, and in that email, he tells them, let's get rid of our ties. Again, I paid them for that. He said, let's get rid of our ties. Imagine the shock and awe. Wait a minute. Nobody believed that this was real. Like, somebody has hacked into this man's email address. They started sending these random emails. They're trying to get us all in trouble. We don't take off our ties. What are you talking about? We sleep in them. We wake up in them. We go to the gym in them. I've never seen a state employee executive without a tie. It was unheard of. But Jim was like, let's do something a little different. Let's take that off. Not only that, he then said, I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email. And you know what happened? People started emailing him. And he responded back. With his own hands, he typed a message to the staff that sent him the email. And they told somebody, Jim sent me an email. Never heard of before. So as you can see, the word in North Carolina started to spread that this crazy guy had come to State Employees, and he was shaking things up. He was doing things totally different. That was a part of Jim's strategy, I'd like to say, that he was being strategic. Maybe not, but we're going to say he was being strategic in his approach. But during that time, he also shared with them what his vision was for the next iteration, the reintroduction of state employees. So he shared that with them. He shared his plan, his long-term vision, his plan for them. For 85 years, State Employees has been known for one thing: providing exceptional service to its members. It is what they do. It is the thing they're known for. It is why 1 in 4 North Carolinians has an account with State Employees. It is why there are 2.6 million members. It is why there are 270 plus branches in the state. It is why there is a branch in every county. It is why the people that work for the organization don't leave. The average tenure is 30 years. So for 85 years, State Employees was known for providing exceptional service to its members. Now, I'm a member myself. Been a member for more than 30 plus years. I've been a beneficiary of that exceptional service. So here is this new guy coming in with all of this history attached to this organization, and he's doing something different. You can imagine there was a little rumble across the street over there about what was going on at state employees. And what could this strategy possibly be that he was trying to change things up for the State Employees Credit Union? So if you think about it, strategy is simply a plan for success, right? We all want to be successful. That's why you write your strategic plan, yes? You write your plan because somewhere, in some book somewhere maybe, it's something like write your vision and make it plain. I mean, there's a book out there somewhere that has that written in it. I don't know if you've read it before, but it's in a book somewhere about writing a vision and making it plain. So that is strategy. That's all that is writing your vision and making it plain. So Jim started to have conversations about what his plans were for the organization. And I want to take you back to something that was said yesterday. Milton talked about the 3 R's. Does anyone remember? Now, I told you I wrote notes. Not something I do regularly, but I didn't even get these from Kelly. I wrote these myself. I wrote notes about what he said. He said the 3 R's, or R3, was to, anybody remember what the first one? Remember. Keep in mind, 85 years. 85 years we go from this closet shoebox credit union to the second largest credit union in the nation. Get this, we serve one state. One single field of eligibility. That means you have to either be a state employee, so you have to work for the state of North Carolina or be an immediate family member, or you have to work for the credit union or be an immediate family member. And with that, you grow to the second largest. So we can't forget, right? So we have to remember how we got there. It wasn't happenstance. It came from the things that were put in place that we did well. And what did I tell you we did well? Exceptional service. It's our claim to fame. We bend over backwards for our members. They know they can count on us. We're reliable. We're loyal to them, and they repay us by being loyal to us. So we will never forget, and we will keep all of those things that are still working well that will help us move to the second R, which was reinvent. So remember I told you it's a reintroduction to the state of North Carolina. Now they've got this new guy in here. He's shaking things up and driving people crazy and all on social media, posting pictures, talking about conferences and going drop-in visits at branches and pictures and selfies even with the staff members. Now, I know y'all have been on LinkedIn and y'all have seen Jim with all of those millions of pictures that he posts with hashtag Team SECU, right? A part of the reinvention. So we'll take all of those things that are still great about the organization, and we'll use that for the reintroduction, for where we're going next, for the next 85 or so years for state employees. And the third R, the only reason why you want to reinvent yourself. How many of you, so there are stars, rock stars, movie stars. Every now and again, they got to do something really drastic and crazy, right? To reinvent themselves, to become relevant again. So here we are, drastic and crazy, all on social media with the young people taking pictures. Something that was never done before, sending all staff emails, Crazy. Taking off ties? Who does that in the credit union industry? Isn't that right, Chairman Sewell? Absolutely. Nobody takes off your tie. We even wear a purple one so everybody feels like they're represented and included, right? But to remain relevant, we also know that all of the things that we did for the past 85 years that got us to where we are today won't necessarily be the same things that we need to do to remain relevant. So for 85 years, I told you, 270 plus branches, 1,100 plus ATMs, all of that so that we could get members to our branches and serve them with that exceptional service that we provide for them. I mean, it's the thing we do. It's who we are. But we also know that there are disruptors out there. You've seen them, right? All of those new fintechs waiting to snatch up your members, ours too. So we have to remain relevant. So as we do that, we have to think about our new strategy, this new approach. How are we going to reinvent ourselves to stay relevant? So I will tell you that strategy is tangible. You can see strategy because you wrote it down in that 200-plus page document that nobody's going to read after you finish it, right? That's strategic. I only got laughs from the people who are seriously not going to read it. Everybody else was like, wait a minute, I just spent the last 9 months writing this thing. What are you talking about? Nobody's going to read it. But it's those goals. It helps us understand what measures we're going to use for success, those KPIs. It's going to help outline how we're going to get there. So it's really tangible. It's something we can touch and feel. Culture, on the other hand, is not. Unlike strategy, culture is not often written down because when I asked you how many of you had a culture plan, I didn't see one hand. Now, I don't know, the lights may be bright, but if you raise your hand for your culture plan, is that a hand back there? Say, all right, we've got 4 people in the room who have written their culture plans. Talk to them about what that process is like. Talk to them about that. And the reason why I would recommend you talk to them about that, because culture is not tangible. Unlike strategy, culture isn't logical. It's not rational. It's quite the opposite. Culture is, here's the technical term, write this down, squishy. Culture's like that blob of gooey, the stuff that your kids used to get out of that machine, that would, the slime, that would pick up everything as it went along if you laid it down on something. It was disgusting, and we let our kids play with it anyway. That stuff that would seep through their fingers, you couldn't get a good hold on it. Culture is squishy. It is an accumulation of behaviors, right? It is a collective mindset. It's all of those assumptions and unwritten rules that we have inside of our organizations. Now, a lot of you will say, well, we don't do that. Like, we write down our policies and our procedures, and we follow them to the T, and that's how we do things over here. You're probably also the ones with the ties, because that's not how it goes. That's not how culture works. Culture is cultivated from the very first day an employee walks into an organization and is introduced to the person who's going to be teaching them how we do what we do. Because you know what else they're telling them? Yeah, I know that's written down over there, but this is how we really do it. That's culture. That's the squishy stuff. So if culture is that accumulation of learned behaviors, that systems of belief, those values, all of those behavioral norms that we see, and strategy is rational and logical and tangible, then we can sum up culture by saying it's just human. It's illogical. It's not something you can touch and feel. Culture is the difference between what we say we do and then when we get together, what we really do. Because you can read on someone's website all of the amazing things that they say they do in their organization, right? Oh, over the past 3 or 4 years, I've seen some brilliant DEI statements. I've seen some brilliant commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Boy, you have a conversation with some of the people inside the organization, and what they will tell you is, we don't do that. That ain't what we do. Oh, I know they said that, but what we really do is. There is a difference, and that's what culture is. The difference between what we say we do and what we really do. So, why don't we focus on culture? You agreed that culture was important. You agreed that it eats strategy, all those hours of dedicated time we put in that plan. It eats that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Why aren't we focusing on culture? Not a rhetorical question. Looking for an answer. Why don't we focus on it? Did I hear cheap? It's not cheap? It's hard. That's the answer I was looking for. Somebody give it. Milton, give her $60. Raise your hand, because Milton owes you $60. There she is. Sheila said it's hard. That's right. It is hard. Culture's not easy. I just told you culture was all about people. It's about humans. How many relationships have you been in when you were like, oh man, this is easy? What? I don't have to put any work into this. You get in what you put out. You get in what you put out. Is that right? You put out what you get in. You know what I was saying. They didn't let me drink coffee this morning because they were like, no coffee. You have to be ready to get up here when we call your name, so no coffee. So yeah, you get out what you put in. Same is true for your culture. Thank you. I needed that encouragement. Anytime I need it, I know I can count on my girl Jackie to give it to me. Thank you, Jackie. But it's hard. It's not easy. So for the most part, nobody wants to work on it because you got to deal with people. A lot of people want to be in leadership positions, but they don't want to deal with people. How can I do? You know what? We excited about getting this job, this leadership position. We look at that pay grade and we go, yes, sign me up. We forgot to read somewhere in there that we're going to have to deal with all the people and all the things that come with all the people. Right? So culture is hard. It's not easy because people come with experiences. People come with trauma. And I'm not just talking about like just life trauma. I'm talking work trauma. They come to your organization as a person having experienced things, and they bring all of that with them. And that means boss issues. They're not much different than daddy issues. I can vouch for that. They come with them. They show up with all of that baggage. And guess who's got to deal with it? Guess what it affects? Your culture. Now, most leaders don't want to deal with it because it's extremely intimidating. When you think about having to change a mindset, let alone behavior. Oh my God. Most leaders don't want to deal with that. You know why? Because they're logical. They're rational. Not really. They're people too. And if they can sit it in a corner and let it do what it does on its own, let's just ignore that culture thing. It's not that important. It's frustrating. Oh my goodness, how many parents out there have had to tell your kids 5 times the same thing over and over and over and over again, and they just don't seem to get it? I just told, no, I said, did not, just stop, but, right? That's how your culture is when you're trying to change it. Okay, we don't really do that. Okay, no, so serious. No, really, okay, it's the same thing. It's frustrating. It can even be overwhelming. The thought of taking on culture. State Employees Credit Union has 7,300+ employees. 7,300+ people. 7,300+ experiences. 7,300+ personalities. 7,300, I think you get the idea, right? It can be overwhelming to deal with. Leaders don't want to deal. We got strategic plans to write. What are you talking about? We don't have time for that culture stuff. That's why it's often discounted, or we dodge it altogether. Nobody wants to deal with it because culture's not rational. There's no real way to do this, to change this, other than I'm going to tell you how to do it in a minute. All right, so either we're going to work on strategy or we're going to work on culture. Most of us aren't working on both at the same time. And the reason why is because typically, if you're having problems in your organization trying to implement your strategy, it's because your culture is not aligned. It's at odds. And so all of those practices that are so deeply ingrained, so deeply rooted in your organizations that you have to pluck out, we got to decide where we're going to spend our time and our energy. Which is it going to be? Either or. So I get a text message from a very close colleague of mine. I'm sitting across the street and I'm watching all of that stuff go on over there at State Employees. And I will tell you that the relationship between local government, which is where I came from, local government, Federal Credit Union, and state employees is a tight relationship, right? It is a very unique relationship, even in the credit union industry, in the fact that local government's members come into state employees' branches to be serviced, right? So local government doesn't have branches, physical branches. Their members come into state employees' branches. So it's a close relationship. So we get to hear all the things that are going on over there at the State Employees Credit Union. We get to hear all of that as I sit over there at local government. So I get a text message from a colleague of mine who goes, text message was simply this: hey, saw this, go apply. And I'm sitting there looking at this, because I'm working from home, because it's during, nobody's really in the office yet. So I'm like, I'm good. What are you talking about? I am sitting at local government, working under Maurice Smith. I'm promoting the 8th cooperative principle. I get to go around and tell people about diversity, equity, and inclusion, have difficult conversations. I'm being mentored and groomed by Ms. Renee Sadie-White, working as their chief diversity officer, providing consulting services for some of the credit unions. I am living the dream. Why in the world would I want to leave? I'm good. Day or two goes by, I get another text message. Hey, did you apply? I respond back, no, I'm good. My phone rings. Ma'am, I really need for you to go and look at this job description. Because when I read it, it read something like this. Hey, if you know Emma, tell her to go apply for this job. So I go, okay. I'll go look at it. I promise I'll go look at it. So another day or two passed by before I actually went to look at the job description. So I click on the link, and to my surprise, it was a position posted by state employees. So I'm like, okay. I read the position, and the first question that came to my mind was, Chief Culture Officer, what's wrong with that culture? Right? Because something's gotta be wrong. If they wanna change it, it's gotta be wrong. Because there's only two things to be, right or wrong. That's it. So something's gotta be wrong. But I apply anyway, because it sounded very interesting. You know, a clean slate. I get to chart my own course. I get to go in there. I get to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I get to meet. And again, remember, when we start to think about all of those wonderful things that we get excited about, we forget about who? People. 7,300. We forget about them. So I'm looking at this like, this is going to be amazing. Oh, wow. Then I have a conversation with Jim, and he lays his plan out before me. He tells me about his strategy. Hey, we want to reintroduce state employees. We've been exceptional in service to our membership for 85 years. We don't want to change that. But we do want to meet them where they are. We've been asking them to come to our branches, and now we want to be sure that we can meet them wherever they are. So that means we got to change a few things up. We got to be a little more innovative. We got to be a little more agile. We've got to up our technology game, right? And I'm looking at this going, sign me up, right? Bring me, I'm double Dutch, like, can I get in? I want to, coach, put me in the game. I'm ready. All of that, and then you get there. And you realize that the strategy that has been in place for 85 years required one culture. But the strategy that we're looking to implement requires something totally different. Something totally different. So culture and strategy, although culture could eat strategy, why not just invite it to dinner with you? Pair them up together. Have them sit down for a candlelight. Because as your strategy evolves, so must your culture. You can't leave it behind. There's no way to do strategy well without a complementary culture. So here's an example. I told you that Jim talked about wanting to be innovative and agile and wanting to introduce technology in a different way, right? So what if, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, what if that was what you wanted for your organization? To be more innovative, to be more agile, to be more technologically savvy, to provide those things for your members. Well, if your culture is stagnant and stale and rigid, that strategy is never going to work. What do you need to have in order for your innovative, agile strategy to work? Not rhetorical.
Innovative culture.
You've got to have innovative culture. How do you build it? Well, glad you asked. You build it by allowing people to fail fast and fail forward. Meaning, you take that failure as a learning opportunity. You learn from it. Okay, there are probably some things that we could have done differently. Hey, yep, we're going to keep that and we're going to move forward. You don't punish them for bringing their ideas to the table. That's the first, quickest way to stifle innovation. Next, you've got to have a diverse culture. Your culture's got to be diverse. And the reason why I say it's got to be diverse is because if you have everyone at the table who thinks, behaves, and believes exactly what you have homogeny. You have one single thought. No innovation, no creativity is going to come from that. So when I say you need diversity of perspective, you need diversity of thought. Wait a minute, let me clarify. In addition to all of the other representation, add on top of that diversity of thought. You need people who are going to be curious. What if? Well, you know what? That might be more efficient. There might be a more effective. Hey, what if we tried and then let them do it? I mean, that's how you create a culture where strategy doesn't become the main course. If you're looking to have an environment where creativity and innovation thrive, create the culture for it. Create the culture for it. Can't be so rigid. It's okay to take your tie off every now and again. Okay, Chairman? Is that okay? Okay. Every now and again, it's okay to do that, to relax a little. Meet people where they are. Your culture also has to be inclusive. So remember bringing those people to the table? Yep. But then empowering them to make some decisions. Listen to the suggestions. And I promise you, I have the absolute best suggestions in the world. You know why? Because they're mine. And I would dare say you feel the same way. Like, you got some amazing, awesome recommendations, suggestions that nobody's ever heard. And you know why they didn't hear them? Because that work trauma taught you the first time you went and you said, hey, you know what? I have this idea. And they said, okay, that's nice. Go sit down. You know what that taught you? Okay, don't bring no more ideas over here. But if someone comes to you with that level of excitement, that level of engagement for how to move your organization forward, because guess what? They're only there to make you look good. All you got to do is make the platform available for them. So if you want innovation and agility and creativity, you've got to have diversity. You've got to have inclusion. That's how you set the table. That's how you get culture and strategy at the table at the same time. And it's important to do that because there is a direct relationship between culture and strategy. A direct relationship between what your driving force is, that guiding path, and that driving path. So that logical, rational thought process that comes in your strategy needs to be supported by the emotional, organic habitat that you create with your culture. Your strategy, that's all about intent. Your culture determines the desire, the engagement, and whether or not it's actually going to be executed, what we really do. Strategy, it might lay down the rules for how to play the game, but culture, that's going to determine the spirit in which it's played. So when your culture and your strategy are aligned, culture embraces your strategy. Your execution then becomes scalable, repeatable, sustainable. That's why your culture can be your competitive advantage, because nobody else has your people. So I talked about the average tenure for the employee at State Employees Credit Union is 30 years. That's the average tenure. We've got people there who have been there for 50 years. That became a part of our competitive advantage. The culture that we built around being loyal, wanting to give and provide that exceptional service to our members, that's what kept them coming back. That passion, that's what kept them coming back. And it worked to help us grow to where we are. It was aligned with the strategy that we currently had in place. So if culture is eating what it kills, how do we invite strategy to actually set the table instead of becoming the meal? How do we get there? How do we get them? How do we get there? Glad you asked again, because it's not that difficult. It is. You have to put in the work. Start with your communicating what your strategy is, that long-term vision. Where do we want to go? Then, once you determine where you want to go, before you start moving, assess the appetite that your culture has for going in that direction. Because one of two things has to happen. You have to align your culture with it or change your strategy. Two ways to success. The second one, once you figure it out where they are, then you've got to create that alignment between culture and strategy. That alignment will include the attitudes and the behaviors of the people who are going to be responsible for executing. Now, it is a requirement for culture to really be effective for the people who are at the top to model the behavior that they want across the organization. So I told you, one of the first things Jim came in and said, take your tie off, let's talk, hey, let's have a sharing exchange, let's tell our story, let's get on social media, let's show everybody who we are. Modeling the behavior, that it's okay to relax a little. It's okay to talk up the chain, to have those conversations. Modeling that behavior. And then you want to avoid what we say, the theoretical. So in that plan that you're putting, that theoretical, what we do versus what we say we do versus what we really do. And then put some measures in place to really gauge your success. How did we do? And that's an iterative process. How did we do? How did we do this month? How did we do this quarter? How did we do this year? Are we still in alignment? Okay, so before I close, I want to tell you how I got to hear yesterday from Tony Moore, who talked about let's lead. Does anybody remember that? Was that not amazing, right? Let's lead. So Tony gave us live your values, embrace your purpose, attend to your people, and deliver the goods. Now, with Tony's consent, and you can tell me if I have your consent, I'd like to share with you all my take on his lead. Is that cool? Okay, all right, that's all kind of cool. Okay, good. All right, so living your values. So when he talked about living your values, he talked about character and competency. Well, guess what that is? Your culture. He was talking about your culture because your people come with their character and their competency. So that's your culture. Embrace your purpose, defining your true north, which he said provides the alignment of your purpose so that you know where you're going, right? You set your sights on where you're going, your plan. That's your strategy right there. That's your strategy. Set your sights on your goal. Figure out what direction you need to be going. That is your strategy. Attend to your people. He said, set intent and align expectations. Now, what did I just tell you? If you don't want your strategy to be eaten by your culture, you better align the two. So that's your alignment. So now we've got our culture, and we've got our strategy, and we've got our alignment. So living our values, embracing our purpose, and attending to our people. Now here is the fourth point that he gave, which was deliver the goods. Here is your accountability. Here is your accountability. So what specific outcomes define success? What's your strategy? How does my work contribute to the success of how am I behaving? What are my attitudes? How am I contributing? And then how well am I contributing? That accountability. So the three questions that he asked is how you get to whether or not you are responsible. First of all, let me just tell you, if you didn't know, and by you I mean yes, you. You are responsible for the culture at your organization. You are responsible for promoting the behaviors, the attitudes that you want to see across your organization. You are responsible for what gets shared from one employee to the next. You're also responsible for modeling, right? So that's your accountability. So I wanted to thank all of the men that got up here yesterday and set the stage for this sprinkle of Black girl magic. I want to thank you for your time and attention, and thank AACUC for the opportunity. Have a great rest of your day.